The reigning champs comes into Coors to face off against what we're pretty sure is not the worst team in baseball. We're talking about that, the Rangers' rash of injuries, and what's going on with the Colorado Rockies in 2024. All that and more on this crossover edition of Locked On Rangers and Locked On Rockies. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers and also locked on to the Colorado Rockies. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Now, let's get into this show with Paul Holden, the crossover edition. Paul Holden, the host of Locked On Rockies. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good, but well, look at you, gets to throw on World Series champion Texas Rangers. I like it. I like the little flair to the intro there. Yeah, because you can tell a little jealousy, perhaps, but I like it. I like, the last time I think we did this, I think actually, Bryce, I get to take a little credit because I think we did a crossover last year, and I believe you hyped up that the Rangers were not dead in the water. It was kind of the same thing as I took credit for the D-backs making it to the World Series because I also did a similar podcast with them. Maybe I'm also just confusing the two of them and just making it up. Who knows?
I don't know. I feel like you could take credit if you want. I mean, that's fair.
Jon Gray, Rockies, so there we go.
Jon Gray is a World Series hero, World Series champion, which is something we all predicted at the beginning of 2023. But alas, that was not how it happened. These teams are in vastly different places. The Rangers in first place alone atop the AL West, despite suffering yet another injury. This has been possibly the most injured team in all of Major League Baseball. The Rangers injured list, for those of you Rockies fans who are not aware, the Rangers have an entire 6-man rotation on the injured list. Jacob deGrom, Max Scherzer, combined 5 Cy Youngs. They also signed Tyler Mahle this offseason, who's still recovering from Tommy John surgery, has not yet pitched this year, and none of these 3 have pitched actually yet this year. Cody Bradford, who was looking like an absolutely dominant pitcher for his first 3 starts, then he went on the IL and will be out for another 3-4 weeks. Who knows at this point? Nathan Eovaldi, World Series, 2-time World Series champ, I should say, is on the IL as well. And Dane Dunning this week was also put on the IL. And then today, Josh Sborz, the guy who threw the final pitch of the 2023 season, a dominant reliever in October, and has been pretty good this year. He is placed on the 15-day IL. The Rangers bullpen arms that are on the IL also include Austin Pruitt, Brock Burke, Carson Coleman. And position players, you have all-star Josh Young, Justin Foscue, a top prospect, and Wyatt Langford, one of the top prospects in all of baseball, who's going to be out for another 2.5 to 3.5 weeks. So this is just an incredibly injured team. And despite all that, and despite the fact that Corey Seager hasn't been really his full Corey Seager self, or really any approximation of his Corey Seager self, until a 3-run homer this week that ended up helping the Rangers steal a win from the A's. I mean, the Rangers have had 16 different injuries this year. 16. That includes Corey Seager, who had surgery to repair a sports hernia in January, which he played through in the World Series when he hit that game-tying home run in the 9th inning of World Series Game 1. They also had an injury to Nathaniel Lowe, who was never been injured in his pro baseball career. He had an oblique strain, and he was out for the first 2-3 weeks of the season. He's now back. And also Josh Sborz had a different injury early on this year. The same injury, actually. It's just recurred now after, I believe, 2 appearances since coming off the IL, a right rotator cuff strain. We'll see how long he is actually out, but the Rangers head into Colorado with kind of 3 starting pitchers, one of them being former Rockies great Jon Gray, another being Andrew Heaney. They also have Michael Lorenzen, who they signed, I believe, on opening day, if not the day after, right around then. And, at this point, you're thinking, thank God they did that, because they need every arm they can get. But, I mean, my goodness, what has been your perception on the World Series champ, just even on the World Series in general, as a neutral observer?
Well, I think the World Series last year actually is something that Rockies fans looked at as hope, maybe potentially in a weird way, a sign of hope. I mean, Rangers and Diamondbacks not that long ago, awful, terrible teams, but they, 2 years, it was the only difference between these teams in the World Series, basically from near rock bottoms for their franchises. And as for the Rockies, I can't sit here and say that I think this team is going to flip the script from this year to next. I mean, the amount of just there's talent on this team, but man, when you see how far behind or underprepared these players are, and for the Rockies, it really makes you wonder if they can take the next step or truly what the Rockies' plan will be. I mean, there is some part of me in the back of my head that thinks maybe they really can be aggressive and build up and build around some of these guys and be more relevant next year than this year. But in terms of when I see the World Series, I see hope. I see a possibility that teams that aren't, some of these big juggernauts, especially, when you're in the NL West and you see the Dodgers and the Padres, how they operate, and it not always paying out. And the Diamondbacks being the team that actually make it to the World Series, the Diamondbacks being the team that knock out the Dodgers, and the Dodgers losing to the Padres before that. So when I see that, I kind of think in the back of my head, it's still possible. But then I see how the season starts for the Rockies, and the Diamondbacks throttle the Rockies, including an opening day loss of 16-1 on the first day of the season. The Rockies follow up their worst season in franchise history by a historically bad opening day, followed by a historically bad start to the season, followed by setting history that hasn't been set since 1910 in trailing in nearly every single game the Rockies have played. So I see the Rangers as a team that honestly I think the Rockies can relate to, in the sense of they're not the same type, and the Diamondbacks as well. You can't just say small market. That's not an excuse for these teams. I don't think that they cover sizable chunks of where they are. I know the Rangers have to deal with Houston, but still, these are teams that show that they can develop players and spend money. It's the combo. Here's our really great players. Texas in the playoffs. Here's this rookie that hasn't played anything, and he's one of the best players on the field right now going out there, mixed with drawing a blank. You can help me. Adolis, right? I mean, he's hitting bombs and seeing a guy that you can rehab and rehabilitate and make him great, just like the Rockies have done with some other players in the past. So I see the Rangers and the Diamondbacks as blueprints for the Rockies to follow. But the Rockies aren't going to follow them because they don't want to. I mean, there's a quote, and Rockies fans and fans of the show know this. I bring this up from bring this up all the time throughout the season. In Dick Monfort's own words, he thinks he has the right people in his organization to win. When they were searching for a new GM and people came to him and told him ways to win, he said it's either things that we've already tried or things we know won't work. And it's like, how do you know these things won't work when the things that you've been trying more often than not haven't worked? And this year is really I think it on full display. The Rockies are quote unquote rebuilding, a word that they themselves still don't use, but there's still so much confusion that goes in this, and still so many decisions that make you scratch your head with this Rockies team that I don't know. So when I see the Rangers and I see the Diamondbacks, I see teams that rebuilt quickly, correctly, because I would happily take the roster, even with the injuries to the Rangers. I'd happily take even that injured rotation. The Rockies couldn't even fathom having Max Scherzer and DeGrom and Maile on the same team, hurt or not. I mean, so it's a situation in which it is jealousy, but it's also frustration, because the Rockies could be like these teams. They certainly could. And they could be in a situation in which they could invest more. And if the Rockies are good, then they're not going to have the attendance issues of other teams that have to be really, really creative with budgets. It's just, Dick Monfort and the Rockies he is so set in his ways that I just don't really know what to expect of things to change anytime soon. Because Bryce, I think other organizations, maybe you can speak to this for the Rangers. I think other organizations, if their team followed up their worst season in franchise history with one of the worst starts in baseball history, people would be fired. And I don't think that necessarily just firing people and right now is the really going to be the make all be all. But I just worry about the lack of repercussion for people in the Rockies front office. When the Rockies fail, or when the Rockies fail to, or underperform and look outmatched, there's no consequences.
Mm-hmm.
It's like for the people that are in charge of getting them ready to play. And if you'll see it this weekend, I mean, this team strike out a ton. So there's a whole bunch of question marks that I just don't think the Rockies can answer, but the Diamondbacks and Rangers did.
Oh yeah, you speak about repercussions for losing in the front office. We'll get to that. I have a comp for what happened with John Daniels, and we'll talk about that and how the Rockies might actually follow the Rangers blueprint right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Stitch Fix. You know the instant confidence boost you get from an outfit that makes you look really good, Paul? I know you do, because you dress so snazzy. That's what I get with Stitch Fix. Easily upgrade your wardrobe this year with a professional stylist that helps you find new on-trend favorites that will work for you. I just give my stylist my size, style, and my budget preferences. I order boxes, what I want, where I want, how I want. No subscription required. And they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I keep what works and send back the rest. My stylist always sends the just right pieces, and the fit is on point. It's like they have style ESP. I don't know how they do that, but they just get me. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/MLB and get $20 off your first fix. That's stitchfix.com/MLB for $20 off. stitchfix.com/MLB. Must redeem within 7 days of sign up. Now, you talk about the front office facing repercussions, and it feels like the Rockies, I know where you're at, man, because I've been there. I started this podcast in 2019, and in the back half of 2021, that was about as miserable and hopeless as I had felt as a Rangers fan, diehard fan since 2010, because the Rangers had a bad farm system, hadn't spent money, hadn't drafted, developed well. There had been a lot of prospects that had come and gone and just weren't anywhere near what they were hyped up to be. And the only one that was Joey Gallo. And the Rangers, he was my personal favorite. I will always defend Joey Gallo, my large adult son. And they traded him off for what felt like a really light return. It's looking like an absolutely incredible return, because Josh Smith has been one of the most valuable players in baseball. Zeke Duran last year was absolutely incredible. But the Rangers it felt like no hope for the future. And it was some of the worst Rangers baseball I've seen was the back half of 2021 after they traded Gallo at the deadline. And the front office was like, just you wait. Just you guys wait. This free agent class, it's so good. There's so many guys. Just wait till you see who we sign. And I was like, this team hasn't spent money on anybody since Shin-Soo Choo in 2014. I'll believe it when I see it. And then they go and they get Marcus Semien, and they get Corey Seager, and they get Jon Gray all in one offseason. You think, okay, all right. They got some people, and they were still terrible next year in 2022. And they spend that offseason. They go and they get Bruce Bochy out of retirement, and then they go and get Jacob deGrom, Eovaldi. They make midseason trades that were massively impactful for a certain guy, Jordan Montgomery, who they maybe could use right now, but I digress. And also they made a trade for Max Scherzer, who all of those worked out pretty darn well. And they had all these different young prospects that they just hit on. Evan Carter, a guy who nobody knew anything about, turned out to be absolutely so essential for this team. And they had basically 3 trades on the margin that they just absolutely nailed. Trading Elvis Andrus for Jonah Heim, just absolute robbery. They also picked up Adolis Garcia for cash considerations, absolute robbery. And they sent a couple of okay lotto ticket prospects to the Rays for Nathaniel Lowe. And all he did was win a Silver Slugger and a Gold Glove. So all of that to say, there is a way there to do it, because the Rangers were only really terrible for, half of the 2020 season. They thought they were going to contend, and that didn't work. Then 2021 at midseason is when they really decided to punt and embrace that. So they had basically like a year and a half of sucking, kind of like 2.5 years if you count 2020 as a half year. So like the model is there, but what kinds of marginal moves do you think the Rockies could make? It seems like they've got young pieces like Nolan Jones, they've got Elias Diaz, they've got, some pitchers like Kyle Freeland, who is hurt but has been pretty good at times. What
18 career WAR, Kyle Freeland. I mean, I think people forget that, especially lately. Kyle Freeland's last few years have been tough while also dealing with a really bad Rockies team. I mean, this Rockies team has trended down not only since the Nolan Arenado trade, but since the playoffs. They have decreased in team offense, team pitching. Everything has slowly but surely gotten worse and worse over the years until they got this point. And there are moves this team has to make, because one thing that is different about the Rangers and the Rockies is before the Rangers, the contracts that the Rangers have given out, most of them are paying out. I think the Max Scherzer and DeGrom ones are going to be interesting as they navigate that injury history. But if you get those guys healthy enough for the playoffs, you're still happy with those trades. You're fine with that.
You won a World Series, like all of the nice thing about winning a World Series is that every move you made, whether it was good or bad, was
right.
a win.
Doesn't matter. It's you can say what you want, but the Rockies have a Chris Bryant contract that is going to continue to be an albatross for a guy that hasn't stayed healthy for them nor performed. Another head-scratching move for the Rockies this year. They say Chris Bryant's going to play first base. Chris Bryant's going to play first base. He plays outfield. He takes a terrible route on a ball, and he tweaks his back. He's been on the IL for over 20 days. So this team's just the whole philosophy and everything is just so jumbled up. But as for moves that they can make, they can do a drastic shift and actually fully embrace this and set themselves up to just go after some free agents. I think I'm not necessarily too sure about the free agent class coming up this year.
There's a lot of pitchers.
Isn't it pretty good, right? Like, I mean,
there's a lot of really good pitchers. A lot of Corbin Burns is going to be a free agent. There's going to be, Max Scherzer is going to be a free agent. Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole has an opt-out. There's also this guy, Juan Soto. That would be honestly the funniest scenario is that Juan Soto signs a mega deal and goes to the Rockies. I would honestly love that for him and for you. And there's some mediocre third baseman who plays in Houston who's going to be a free agent this year.
So the Rockies are facing situations where what do you do with Brendan Rodgers? A number one pick that just hasn't really panned out as much as you've hoped, but you could send him to some teams that'd be really interesting. Seattle. I really think Seattle and the Rockies just make so much sense as trade partners, a team that is loaded with pitching prospects and talent, and a team that needs either a second baseman or a third baseman that can provide some thump. And there are two options right there. The Rockies, I think, are going to have to seriously consider what their plans are for Ryan McMahon as they go to this, because he's playing very well, and he is going to be very enticing for some players. Gold Glove caliber defense, and though he strikes out a lot, his new swing this year, he looks like maybe one of the best versions of Ryan McMahon that we've seen. So two guys right there. I think Eleris Montero, the guy that came over in the Arenado trade, he's yet to break out, and he's in a weird log jam at first base, and with this first base and right field are kind of mixed together with a lot of young players on the Rockies too. So it's, what are you going to do with him? You mentioned Elias Diaz. If you need a veteran catcher that can play you good deep, solid catching defense while also the ability to hit you a home run, especially in the second half of the season, he would be perfect, because Elias Diaz, he's not flashy, but let me do the Bryce. I can put a cool little title. The 2023 All-Star Game MVP.
There you go. There you go.
He really could be interesting for some teams. So, because they can go young. The Rockies, one of the Rockies' top prospects is a second baseman. They could move away from Brendan Rodgers in the second half of the season. If you're already, the worst team in baseball right now, and it doesn't get much better by the trade deadline, is it really going to hurt much to have him come up and play the second half of the season for you guys and get as many pitchers as you can get for Brendan Rodgers? There are some moves to be made, because I do like some of the young outfield pieces. I think some that we've seen, and some names you'll probably hear and learn for the first time this weekend for Rangers fans. Sean Bouchard, Hunter Goodman, two young guys. Michael Toglia is down in the minors. One of the Rockies' best home run hitters this year is actually in the minors right now. He's interesting, a switch hitter that can play first base and right field. Brenton Doyle, who won the Gold Glove,
they win the Platinum Glove, because that, I feel like a lot of casual fans don't know about Brenton Doyle. His defense in center field. I love center field defense. I geek out on it. And Brenton Doyle is just if he was swinging a paper mache bat, he would still be a 2.5 WAR player for his
Right.
defense alone. And Coors is a massive outfield. And so having a guy like that, and also right now looking at his OPS plus, he's technically an above league average hitter, 101 OPS plus with sensational defense. That seems like a big deal.
Yeah, that was the whole question about Brenton Doyle. Defense, and the defense has been a little slow this year as well, but chalk it up with the Rockies just kind of being a mess to start. Brenton Doyle is a better defender than his defensive numbers say right now, but his improved offense this year, batting like 200 last year, real issues with chasing the ball. If he can put together a full season of good offensive numbers, watch out. That could be really special. Elite defense, solid offensive contribution. That's a dream scenario for a center fielder at Coors Field. So we'll see how that pays off. And then the Rockies, I mean, where you have to give credit for sure with this Rockies team, he's young and he's got stuff to figure out. But the Rockies have basically hit on another shortstop. Ezequiel Tovar, he is only 22 years old, but he has shown advanced maturity. He's shown an ability to handle major league pitching. He's shown an ability to be an elite defender, a Gold Glove finalist in his rookie year last year. He is someone that has that. He can be the special guy for the Rockies, mixed with, I think, Brenton Doyle. And if Nolan Jones can start cooking, this Rockies team has talent, but it just does not seem like they're prepared or ready to handle things. This is a team that strikes out 10 plus times a lot. This is a team that has trailed in 36 of 37 games this season, setting that record we talked about. This is a team that is terrible on the road and hasn't been that great at home. This is a team that hasn't won back-to-back ball games since September of last year. I mean, this is a team that hasn't won a series all season long. The Avalanche and the Nuggets have more series wins in 2024 than the Colorado Rockies do. It's crazy when you think about how bad they have been. And this is a team that's blown 5-run leads in the ninth. This is a team that's blown 3-run leads in the ninth. This is a team that could have 12 wins. I know that's not a lot, but when you're talking about the history and how bad they have been, that's a massive difference than being considered the worst team in baseball.
Yeah, it is definitely a rough place to be. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Gray Wolf, Jon Gray, stepping up very big for this Rangers rotation. A little bit of just absolutely basking in the light of the Rangers World Series champion. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Policygenius. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. Policygenius helps you compare your options for the top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work-life insurance policy may not be enough protection that your family needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius gives you unbiased advice from a licensed expert support team. They've got no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you can save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb.
Folks, it is a big weekend, all right? You cannot mess it up. I've done it on a Mother's Day before. Don't make the mistake like me. Use DoorDash and make sure you take care of mom. It's Mother's Day this weekend, and if you want to make mom smile, start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brands she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. Does mom have a sweet tooth? Is she a tech enthusiast, a beauty connoisseur, or is she outdoorsy? No matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech, your workout wear, and more, all delivered right to her door with all the beauty and simplicity of DoorDash. Shop with savings that would make her proud with a Dash Pass membership. You'll save with a $0 delivery fee and reduced service fees on eligible orders from Dash Pass Pass merchants that meet minimum subtotal. Other fees do apply. Terms also apply. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONMLB. That's LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today and our promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Terms do apply.
Now,
Bryce, can I hit you with a stat? Sorry to talk over you, but
no. Hit me with a stat, man.
We have, what to watch this weekend. Jon Gray, first trip back to Coors Field here, and you talked to Corey Seager here. I just want to give you two stats here from StatMuse. Corey Seager has a batting average of .330 with 10 homers and 37 RBI and 242 plate appearances against right-handed pitchers versus the Rockies in his career. Corey Seager has a .323 batting average with 5 homers and 19 RBIs and 104 plate appearances against left-handed pitchers against the Rockies in his career. If you're talking about things to watch this weekend, not only is it the Jon Gray return, but it is a bona fide, certified, wanted posters in Coors Field, Rockies killer coming to Coors Field this weekend in Corey Seager.
That is a good stat because Seager, it took him a while to get right, which was surprising because last year Seager had 2 different stints on the IL. He had a hamstring injury about 2 weeks into the season. He was out for 6 weeks, and then he comes back and like the first game, he is just sensational. Last year, he finished second in AL MVP voting, only to the freakazoid known as Shohei Ohtani, who was terrorizing me in my division, is now terrorizing you in your division.
Haven't seen him yet. You know what? Rockies haven't played the Dodgers yet. So you know what? They don't exist. Don't care. until I see them, don't exist.
Well, thankfully, Corey Seager was, just basically perfect immediately after coming off the IL, which doesn't usually happen. But this year, he had a sports hernia surgery at the end of January, missed almost the entirety of spring training, only played, I believe, 1 game in Arizona. Then the Rangers had a couple of spring training games that were at home in Arlington. So he played those games and won in Arizona, and then just did not look like himself for the first, 3 weeks of the season, then started hitting balls hard, but it was just right at guys, kept getting unlucky. Had a massive home run this week on Monday, a 3-run go-ahead shot in the 8th inning, and an Oakland pitcher decided to throw him 6 straight changeups, which I don't care how good any one of your single pitchers is, unless you're like literally Mason Miller. Even that case, like still, Corey Seager, you throw him the same pitch 6 times, he's going to get a good swing off, and he did. Thankfully. So hopefully that is a return of Corey Seager to form. And Jon Gray, right now, the Rangers ace. He has been sensational for the Rangers this season. In his last 7 games, he has got a 1.50 ERA. One of those was an outing in the bullpen just randomly when the Rangers were in a long stretch. Eventually, he might end up in the bullpen when the 6 Rangers starters get off the IL, but who knows at this point. Last year, when he moved to the bullpen in the playoffs, including in the World Series, he was just unhittable. I mean, his last 2 games, he went 7 innings, just 2 earned runs, probably should have been 0. The defense let him down. Then against the Nationals, the start before, 8 innings, just 1 earned run, probably also should have been 0 earned runs there. But Gray has stepped up in a big way for this Rangers team. He did it in his first year with the Rangers when there was just him and Martin Perez as the only half-decent starters. Last year, he was healthy for the vast majority of the season, got hurt in his final regular season start, and then came up huge in the playoffs. But I know you appreciate Jon Gray, and I'm sure you loved just watching him get his World Series last year. And I got to tell you, I'm hoping that Rockies fans and you specifically get to experience what it's like to win a World Series, because we're a little over 6 months later, and like nothing really hurts me anymore. It's just like, oh no, another guy went on the IL. Let me go watch Corey Seager hit that game tying out. Let me go watch Theodoros Garcia walk off home run. Let me go watch all those ALCS clips of Game 7 that I got to watch in person. The only Rangers game I went to all of last year was Game 7 of the ALCS in Houston. So like, I hope you get to know this feeling and this peace and this joy, because my friend, it is absolutely spectacular.
I believe in anything is possible, but we'll see. I've said this a lot. I think one of the biggest mistakes the Rockies have made is letting go of Jon Gray. Jon Gray was someone that was good at Coors, someone that was good on the road, and someone that the Rockies need, someone that can strike batters out. The Rockies are desperate. You mentioned injuries. The Rockies, 3 starting, the 1, 2, 3 in the rotation for the Rockies also injured. Kyle Freeland, Herman Marquez, and Antonio Senzatella. Herman recovering from Tommy John from last year, and Antonio Senzatella, who on the day he returned from his ACL injury, goes down and has to have Tommy John, and then Kyle Freeland soreness in the elbow there. So Jon Gray would be exactly what the Rockies need, and Jon Gray is exactly what any team needs. He's a guy that you can start and he'll get you what you just mentioned, a 1.5 ERA, and can strike people out. Oh, you can put him in the bullpen and he'll still come out, and because he has the ability to strike people out, and he's been some consistent here. So I think for me, this is a cool weekend to see, and Jon Gray is an easy guy to root for. That's the type of guy that I really, when I think of playoff Rockies, Jon Gray is a key part of that, and I will always root for that guy. Really hoping he gets, I don't know if it'll be a big thing, but hoping there's a little ovation and a little love for the Gray Wolf there, because he was someone that was really, really good for the Rockies and was crucial to their playoff success, to getting to the playoffs.
Yeah, he is definitely a guy who is beloved by the Rockies. He is beloved by the Rangers, as is, well, pretty much everybody who is on that 26-man roster, or really just at any point on the roster last year, outside of one guy who we don't have to talk about. He is now in Pittsburgh. Not Martin Perez, a different left-handed pitcher that did help the Rangers win the World Series and was a special moment. He did play a part in that. Literally everybody did. I mean, the Rangers, lost the division on the last day. And the special thing about that is that, like, it was just such an up and down season. And, like, I picked the Rangers to win the World Series heading into the playoffs, not based on any rational, logical, or, I don't know, whatever right. Third adjective of that ilk fits. It was just, my quote was, being Delulu is the Salulu. And you know what? It was like, after a matter of time, I mean, the Rangers had their best team ever was 2012, and the Rangers lost the division on the last day. And that one had to play in the 1-game wild card. The first time that was even a thing. And they lost to Joe Saunders and the Orioles because, okay.
Right.
The Rangers in 2015 and 16 had a loaded team. In 2016, they had Yu Darvish and Cole Hamels, and the Rangers lost because those two guys got lit up. Two of the best pitchers on the planet just got annihilated. And the Rangers offense that had Adrian Beltre and all those boppers all around just did nothing. And so I'm like, you know what? At some point, they've got some Bruce Bochy magic here. Maybe that was all they were missing, is just the playoffs are kind of a crapshoot. Honestly, They are. And eventually, if you get into the playoffs enough, your team will probably go on a run. Unless you're the Twins from like 2003 to 2022, because they won the playoff series, and I'm happy for them, because I know that pain of having a good team only for everything to come crashing down in the playoffs. But hey, it is a nice feeling to be champs. I am hoping that the Rockies get to experience that feeling of being champs, and if not, then just ride the coattails. Jon Gray, World Series champ, so therefore Rockies also reigning World Series champ. Why the heck not? Hang the banner, hang it right now this weekend when Jon Gray comes to town. But Paul, thank you so much for joining me, y'all. Thank y'all so much for listening. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers and Colorado Rockies baseball.